and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be looking at a god from both Irish, Manx and Welsh mythology, named Manannán mac Lir. He was mentioned briefly in my introduction to the Isle of Man video, but he is associated with Ireland as well as Wales. Manannán mac Lir, meaning son of the sea, is a warrior and king of the otherworld in Irish and Manx mythology, as well as Welsh, who is associated with the sea and often interpreted as a sea god. He is seen as the ruler and guardian of the otherworld, and his dominion is referred by such names such as Evan Arblach, which is known as the Isle of Apples, Magmel, which is the Plain of the Lights, and Tir Carngir, which is the Land of Promise. He is described as Overking of the surviving Tuatha De Danann after the advent of humans. Manannán was then tasked with allotting which seed or fairy mounds the surviving members of the Tuatha De Danann were to be settled. Manannán's own dwelling was at Evan Arblach in the city of Cruithne na Cuin. As the tale later reveals, Manannán ensured the welfare of the Tuatha De Danann by concealing in the mist of invisibility, holding the feast of Flairgiven, which conferred eternal youth, and feeding them Manannán swine, which was a pig that after being killed would come back to give an inexhaustible supply of food. In modern tales, he is said to own a self-navigating boat named the Wave Sweeper, a horse called Enbar who could walk over water as well as land, and a deadly strength-sapping sword named Fregrach. It was said that the very sight of Fregrach would fill men's hearts with fear, and that any person wounded by it would not survive, as they were reduced to weakness of a woman during childbirth. Manannán was also the owner of what was known as the Crane Bag, which was kept full of treasure. A woman was sent to Manannán, transformed into the shape of a crane. Her name was Aoife, and Aoife was transformed by the druidry of her jealous love rival, whose spell was to last for 200 years. When it came to the time when Aoife finally passed away, Manannán crafted her crane skin into a magical treasure bag, whose contents were only visible when flooded during full tide, and would seem empty when the tide had ebbed. This would eventually fall into possession of Finn MacCool. Manannán had also commissioned a craftsman to make him a shield to be made of wood, and this was later passed on to Finn as well. The wood had come from a withered hazel tree on the fork where the severed head of Balor, who was the head of the Fomorians, was left. The venom from the Fomorian had penetrated the tree, killing and blinding workers trying to uproot or handle it. It has been suggested that his father Lir was a sea god, whose role was taken over by Manannán. Manannán's other surname, Macacloid, means son of the soil or land, so that Manannán is effectively the son of the sea and the land. A similar version of him is widespread in Wales. This prevalent appreciation and adoption of a god is not uncommon. However, the Welsh version of him, Manawydd dan Bavclir, is so like his Irish counterpart that their stories are so easily confused. In the tale Voyage of Bran, Manannán rode his chariot over the sea, meeting with a sailing ship. In this story, he told Bran that the sea did not actually look like water to him, but rather, I, Manannán, see in the plain of Feats red-topped flowers without fault. He goes on to tell Bran about how he is heading to Ireland to sleep with the saint Kintigernach, who would go on to bear Mongan, who is sometimes believed to be the reincarnation of the legendary hero Finn MacCool. In other later sources, Manannán visits the land of the living, and his movement is compared to the wind, or a hawk or a swallow, and sometimes takes the form of a thundering wheel rolling across the landscape. Or there is also the local lore that Manannán moves like a wheel turning on 3 legs, a tradition widespread on the Isle of Man like their Triskelion, but also found in some eastern counties in Leinster. There are several different stories attributed to him that exist in the different parts of Ireland through their counties. This can vary between who he was married to, like the goddess Fan, who was a beautiful goddess that looked like a pearl, or Anne, who was the Irish goddess of summer, wealth and sovereignty. She is also associated with midsummer and the sun, and is sometimes represented by a red horse, although she is also sometimes considered his daughter. Manannán also had a large number of biological children, as well as the fact that he is often seen in the traditional role of a foster father as well. Manannán is furthermore identified with several trickster figures, including the Gila de Care and the churl in the drab coat, We also need to take into account the similarity of Manannan's inexhaustible swine to Odin's boar, Zahimnir, in Scandinavian myth, which has been noticed by scholars. Manannan also owned a speckled cow that he and a too-hot Didunan named Angus retrieved from India, along with a dun cow, 2 golden goblets, and 2 spancels of silk. Manannan was eventually killed in the Battle of Magcullen and is said to be buried in the Ton banks off the coast of Donegal. Many shipwrecks have occurred there, and the spirit of Manannan is supposed to ride on the storms, so even in death he's still going around doing what he wants. I may do smaller mini episodes about gods and their exploits because it would be too much for just one video to go over all their stories. But thank you for making it to the end of the video. Please don't forget to share, like and subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I will see you next time. Bye bye.